Hello, and welcome to the CX Mechanic Workshop, Episode 6, Part 1. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Ian Golding as my guest. He's one of the most highly influential figures in customer experience, and more recently, Ian's been delivering his CX masterclasses and coaching across the world, sharing his knowledge with more than 600 people and helping CX professionals achieve the coveted CCXP accreditation. So, welcome, Ian. Great to see you.
Hello, Nick. I don't often get seen in a garage, so my wife won't quite believe that I'm about to do something manually with my hands. So let's avoid that and just talk.
Yes, yeah. Well, you don't want to get oil over your clothes. Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. Yes, it's slightly less salubrious way of working in here. But just talking about CX in general, one of the things that we've touched on recently is about the perception of CX people in the workplace, and quite often CX can be seen as a kind of an outlier. It's not really integrated into the thinking around some of the company strategy. But sometimes people can feel a little bit ostracized, and that doesn't help them get the job done, because it can be really difficult to disrupt people and not necessarily therefore be able to construct a different way of thinking, a different way of doing it. So what would your thinking be around how people can show resilience and continue to deliver impact within organizations where it's harder to get that traction?
It's a great question, and I completely agree with what you've said. On a weekly basis, I talk to people, counsel people, mentor people who are struggling to have the impact or influence that they would like to have. I myself have shared with you before, Nick, how difficult I found it at times on the inside of an organization. And to a degree, it's nothing necessarily to do with status or job title or salary or anything like that. It's to do with, firstly, in my opinion, the rudimentary understanding of what customer experience is in the first place. And as we know, despite the fact that this is the 10th anniversary this year of the professional association representing customer experience professionals, the lack of understanding of the science behind it is still hugely significant. And so for many CX professionals, the fact that they've got the title doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's all determined by the maturity of the individuals, the leaders, the teams that are there to be influenced. And one of the things that I talk about a lot, and I've talked about it for many years and I keep talking about it, is the need to leverage different types of authority, because that's ultimately what someone working in a CX role needs, is authority. But as I just alluded, and as you indicated in your introduction, very often we don't have the position in the organization to influence those sitting at the top table, because far too often the CX practitioner isn't the chief customer officer or the chief experience officer. The practitioner is much lower down. They could be 2, 3, 4 layers below the CEO. And so positionally, we're not necessarily given that ability to flex our muscles just from a structural perspective. So what we've got to be able to do is either say, well, I don't care, and just become really irritating and bullish, but that in itself is difficult to do. I know of at least 2 CX professionals this year who have left their organizations because they were creating too much conflict, because they were going in too hard, too fast, and the organization wasn't ready for it. What we've got to be looking at as a profession is borrowing authority and earning authority. I have, to my benefit, borrowed the authority of both senior leaders in the organization and others outside of the organization to achieve what's necessary. What I mean by borrowing authority is borrowing the authority of someone who does have the position or the status or the perceived status to convince others. As an example, which I don't often share, a few years ago, a hugely successful customer experience transformation was delivered by an organization I know you're aware of, Nick, Northern Gas Networks in the UK, who really did quite remarkable things in a business-to-business environment with essentially people digging holes in the ground. And the reason that they achieved what they did, and in fact they won many customer experience awards a few years ago, was because their CEO was a man who totally understood the need to be customer-led and created an environment to enable them to do that. So when I was faced with organizations in a B2B space that just didn't get it, I reached out to Mark and said, look, and I've never worked with him, by the way, but I was inspired by him. And I said, would you mind spending, an hour of your day talking to a client of mine? Totally non-competing industry. And Mark's the kind of guy that said, yeah, of course, that's not a problem. And just by bringing another CEO in from a non-competing environment to talk to CEOs and leaders of other organizations, they thought he was amazing. And it didn't matter that what I was telling them was the same. Hearing it from another leader made such a difference. So, but I also mentioned earning authority. We are still working in an immature profession, a profession that is only 10 years old, which means that there is still a huge lack of understanding of the fact that it is a profession at all. So I think the need to continually develop ourselves, get whatever qualifications we can that give us credibility, but also get recognition for the good work that we do. The CX Leader of the Year award, which is managed by my customer, that just getting shortlisted on that, will earn all of those CX professionals more credibility, which will earn them more authority in their organizations. Last week, as you know, was the UK Customer Experience Awards. It doesn't matter whether businesses win a gold, silver, or a bronze, or whether it's for a small initiative or entire program. Just getting that recognition earns more authority to keep the momentum going. So very, very long-winded answer to your question, as you will have anticipated. But I think authority is something that we all have, however tough it feels, however much it feels like we're pushing water uphill. In fact, I heard someone tell me the other day that they've been pushing water uphill with a fork. If it feels that way, you've got to just pause for a second and think about how can you leverage those different types of authority.
And for me, a lot of organizations have had the tools, but they've been embedded in different departments. So you might have customer service in operations, you might have voice of customer in marketing, you might have a brand team doing other work in other places. And as a result, none of it really comes together in a way that truly adds the value that we know it can. And the frustration for me there is that some of the ways in which organizations build those tools, i.e. the voice of customer, if it's marketing led, will miss out things that help operations, and vice versa. The contact center insights that could be really helpful for the next marketing push. There's a disconnect in that internal information. That for me is a big gap for a lot of organizations, even if they think they are or want to behave in a more customer focused manner.
It's been an issue for many years. Where does customer experience sit in the organization? And it continues to be an issue because there is confusion. It comes back to that lack of maturity that I mentioned before. And what that also unfortunately means is that there is a side effect of a lack of accountability at the same time, because marketing are responsible for VOC. It's their job. It's got nothing to do with us. I was with a company recently who have a customer experience team, but they're actually a customer service function. In fact, it contained the functions that face customers. But the problem with that is that the rest of the business thinks that customer experience is their job. We hear things like this every single day. But again, it shows that, yes, customer experience every year increases in the rhetoric of businesses, but their understanding of how to apply it is still, we're a million miles away from where we need to be.
Yeah. And the number of times I've been asked what I do, and I say, I work in customer experience. It's great. Oh, you work in customer service. It's like, no. Well, that's one component of.
And then Nick, I still get people saying to me, why did I call my book Customer What? That's the reason.
yes, because and you're right. I mean, and that has a massive impact on interpretation. And for me, I've come to a realization that most businesses want to succeed. The people in there want to succeed. They will do whatever they can to succeed. But sometimes there's just a gap in knowledge which prevents that from truly taking place. So that real cultural shift just doesn't take place because they're so enthused and energetic. Yes. They don't see the fact that they've got these gaps, which is where those maturity assessments come in. Because you can start to see the difference between senior leadership, those that are doing the job, and potentially the fact that they will not get to the point where they want to because they don't necessarily have the skills to be able to achieve that. Even if they've got the vision and the discipline to apply the tools, there's sometimes just that little bit extra the support that they need.
There is an additional issue though. The additional issue being is that I think, and this is probably human nature, I don't know much about the sort of biological reasons behind all of this, but or psychological reasons. I think we get so focused on the tasks that we've been given that it becomes so routine and to a degree so mundane that we forget why we're doing it in the first place. And one of the side effects of the pandemic, without question, is that I unfortunately am observing that companies have become more task focused than ever before. And so we end up every day just doing the things that we've been told to do. It doesn't matter how stupid they are or how irrelevant they might seem. That's just what we do. That's just the way we do it here, which is that people used to laugh about that, but it's become more and more extreme. And I think what a lot of businesses need to do, they won't do it, but need to do is just, just stop for half an hour and think about what have you done today.
Sadly, that's all we have time for in this episode, but look out for part 2 coming soon. Thank you to our audience. Please like and share the channel, and don't forget to click the bell icon to get notifications when the next episode is launched.